It's okay. It's alive.
Active.
I'm going by that clock, right? Or oh, I gotta put these on. Okay, 6 o'clock. The Alton Budget Committee coming to order, September 30th, 6 PM. First roll call.
Rebecca Johnson,
Dave Hershey,
Jake Bemis.
Selectman Bob Holt filling in for Brock.
okay, great. Motion to approve the agenda,
I'll move, Mr. Chairman.
second.
I will second.
Jake second, Bob approved. Okay, new business. Excuse me. Budget proposal approvals, okay. Department 4145 IT. Hey Josh, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Well, thanks. If you want to introduce yourself for the microphone, the
Audio, yep.
new software.
Josh Monaco, IT Director, Town of Alton.
So Josh, I'm looking at the budget. Anything in particular stand out in terms of concerns, goals that you haven't been able to meet? because of funding or,
Nothing that I haven't been able to meet due to funding.
okay, what about projections for the future?
So at my last Board of Selectmen meeting, we had discussed getting into CIP. We had discussed at the last Board of Selectmen meeting to get into CIP.
Oh, yep.
So in talking about the future and like hardware, software upgrades, I'm well within the range of getting into CIP and helping flatline the budget with larger scale projects and things like that.
Great. Jake and I met with the fire chief. And you were getting involved with some of the alarm systems and so on.
Correct.
Okay. Excuse me, sorry. Your involvement in that is contemplated in here?
Was.
Okay. And how is it not now?
So the board had discussed the amount that I put into the budget, and that's where CIP came in. They wanted to see larger scale projects of that nature put into a reserve fund so that it didn't spike up the budget so far.
Okay. So then also in talking with the fire chief, are you looking at standardizing other alarm systems within the town?
Yeah, so I don't have too much to do with alarm systems, but this is more kind of like access control. So like door entry controls. I already do security, like surveillance cameras for the town. So adding this as something that I do is, to me, doesn't seem like too big of a deal. But yeah.
Okay. As far as consolidation or streamlining of software programs, okay, is that on your to-do list?
I'm already doing it.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Great. And have you been able to do at least an oversight on that? Maybe not into specifics, but I mean, just.
Yeah, so IT as a whole, I try to streamline things as much as possible. So like, just as an example of that, surveillance, security cameras, I go through one particular supplier for surveillance. And what I've done is I've created a centralized type system for that. And I intend to do that with other things as well.
Okay. I was also thinking in terms of administrative software. Okay. There's obviously the Microsoft Office suite. Okay. But to the extent that there's antiquated other programs, to the extent that they are either updated or consolidated, I mean, are you looking at that as well?
That's something I could take into consideration. I think that in some ways that will work, especially in town government. In other ways, it won't work. So like Microsoft Office, we're using that as a whole.
Sure.
We're not going like Gmail for this department, Microsoft Outlook for this department. It's just a broad, like that's what we use for email and word processing, Excel, all that. But when you get down into like assessing software and financial software and fire department software, there isn't really like a one size fits all vendor for that. What we found is we generally have to go with a company that specializes in this software. That's what they do. They have nothing to do with all the other aspects of town government.
My only thought on that, and you would know as you go through it, is when you look at that, for example, if whatever vendor we happen to be using when we bought the software, if they're no longer in existence, okay, because the software is 5-8 years old, you'd kind of flag that and say, look, this is something that we want to think about replacing with a contemporary vendor rather than be faced with a weekend or something when it crashes.
Right.
And there's no solution.
In some respects, I have been in that choir for many years, looking to replace old software with new. And sometimes it's a slow moving process. Sometimes you meet opposition to it. And just trying to keep the ball rolling is what I've been doing.
So when you meet opposition, is it more in terms of funding or in terms of personality or in terms of a learning curve?
Never the learning curve. But depending on who you might come in interaction with, people that might be using the software for many years don't want to see it change. Might put up a argument saying, well, we've been using this for 20 years and it's been great. We don't want to see it leave. Things like that. And of course, budget's always a concern.
Okay, so then perhaps next year, 2 budgets similar to what you have here versus one focused on software, looking at antiquated, outdated, or for lack of a better word, risky software. And I'm also thinking of terms of security patches, stuff that hasn't been updated recently, more likely to being hacked,
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think the CIP that I was talking about earlier, I think that's going to be, from a broad perspective, what we're looking for software and hardware.
Oh, great.
To kind of like take care of a lot of those bigger projects.
The last time we talked, last year, you were looking at servers, and we had talked about, being a unique opportunity to get great deals on used servers still covered under warranty. Did that ever turn out to be helpful for you?
I had considered it, but we had already pulled the trigger on like a brand new server. So we, the next time that we're going to be looking at a server, we might not even be looking at a server. I'll definitely keep it in mind. And when we go shopping for another one, I'll consider it.
Yeah, and depending on when that is, those deals might not be out there then.
Right.
So yeah, understood. So
something definitely I'll keep in mind.
Yeah. Anybody have specific questions on the budget itself? Okay, motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, any objections? So unanimous, I'm sorry, unanimous vote. Okay, and the dollar amount is the 161,203, correct? Is that what we're looking at there, Josh?
Correct.
So, great.
Thank you.
Administration 4130.
Yes.
Okay, anything in particular you'd like to start off with? Okay, great. All right. Sorry, I got this tickle that's just not relenting.
If you want some.
No, I think what I might do is after this, grab a water.
Okay.
In terms of upcoming wages, as compared to this past year, and specifically COVID-related things, any cutbacks, any restoration of people that may have been either furloughed or reduced in hours?
So we did not have any of that during the state of emergency because all of the town employees were designated as essential employees. And so we allowed in-person work and remote work depending on the department and the position and the work that was needed. But I can tell you in terms of wages that the overtime will be less in this budget of any possible overtime. There won't be much anyways in this budget, but the overtime that was used during the state of emergency will no longer be used throughout the town in various departments.
When people were working remotely, do they have laptops that the town provided them? Or do they use on their own like PCs or something?
It was a combination of both. And if it was because we only have so many laptops and those that used their own personal laptops had a VPN attached to it by IT.
Okay, great, terrific, great. So, okay. Sorry, unanticipated expenses. What's that category?
So that's line 899. And if you look at the justification sheet, it could be for It's the last item on the justification sheet package. It could be for anything. It's truly titled as it's used, unanticipated expenses, emergencies, and there are some examples there
Mhm.
of usage in the past, as well as the expenditures from the last 3 years or
Mhm.
2.5 years.
Okay, and so in terms of upcoming meetings, do you anticipate those to returning to face-to-face?
Meeting, you mean board meetings, board of selectmen's meetings? Or?
No, events. I'm looking here at.
Oh, you mean emergency events?
Yeah, or class events, or, I don't know what you call them.
The meetings and conferences probably.
Yeah,
right?
meeting, yeah,
Line, is
yep.
it, I don't know if that's 110 or 111.
Oh,
Right.
okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were still on line 899.
Oh, no, sorry.
Sorry. Okay.
He was all set with that.
So line, okay, 110. So anticipate everything to be normal in a normal year as far as these that are listed, or most of them. Whereas in 2020 and the first half of 2021, we did a lot of Zoom meetings and conferences and expos and things of that nature, but not in person.
And then help me out, Liz, if you put this in the line item, in this virtual, okay, using this as an example, what happens to the $2,200 if you don't use it?
So, well, two things. First of all, is a lot of these places that are offering the online attendance versus in person, we still have to pay for it.
Okay.
But most of them are at a discounted rate.
Mhm.
And so at the end of the year, whatever is not used in this line item, when the books are closed, it is considered surplus in the general fund, which then is placed into the fund balance.
Yep.
And then it's somewhat protected at that point when it's in the fund balance, protected from usage.
Well, but it would have to be used sometime, right?
You mean the fund balance?
Yeah.
It could be used sometimes. The fund balance is different from the general fund. The fund balance is only allowed for certain usages by state law and by the Department of Revenue Administration. As an example, a catastrophic event in town designated as an emergency where we would need to go to Superior Court to dip into the fund balance for funds.
Like a flood.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
And you have to go to Superior Court to get the money out?
Yes, yep. And another example would be, which would fall under the authority of the selectmen, which would be at tax rate setting time at the end of October. They do have the legal authority to use some of the fund balance towards lowering the tax rate if they wish.
Mhm.
So that's just another example of fund balance usage.
Okay, great. I didn't have any other, anybody else have questions? I don't want to seem like I'm kind of like hogging it here.
No, I think just to piggyback off of that, I had a similar question because it looks like there was a lot, and I'm new to this, so forgive me. A lot in the 2021 budget that didn't seem to get used. So there's a lot, so I guess to piggyback off that question, are all of these unused funds from the 2021 budget that didn't get used up going into a fund?
Well, they would remain in the budget until the end of the year when the books are closed, and then they would be considered surplus. Now, keep in mind that this sheet that you're looking at is as of September 23rd. So we're only through almost 3/4 of the year, and some stuff happens more towards the end of the year with all the departments actually.
Okay.
But yeah, the first half of the year, we were in a state of emergency, and therefore we didn't have, or so far, we haven't used any overtime money, just as an example. I'm
Right.
looking at line 020. So on and so forth as you go down the list. I know line 110, there have been some expenditures to that this month, actually. So, yeah.
Well, that answers it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anybody else? Motion to approve?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, unanimous. Okay, and the amount, 40922.
Three 335.
Okay, so the number is corrected to 384,335. Thanks. AV. Anybody want to pull this apart?
Try.
Any questions?
Actually, I don't have the folder with me. I was looking for a digital copy on my phone. So
Oh, you're miles beyond me, man. I'm lucky when I can dial.
yes, I do actually. All right, thank you.
The budget amount in this is 3,500 for the year. 3,500.
No. They gave us one a while ago, but the stack's gotten so big, I can't fit it in my backpack anymore. I had to go to service an emergency fire system, so I couldn't get back to my house in time for the meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's alphabetical, second tab, and maybe third. I have no questions on this, but Jake, I know you just got it, so.
I was just reading through the justification. I don't have any questions either. It's detailed.
Yep.
About what Joshua's doing with it.
So, okay, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No objections in the amount of $3,500. Okay. D, interest short term. I don't think we should be spending any interest. Oh. Do we have anybody present that can answer some questions on this? So, motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved for $1. Okay. Surprised nobody had any questions. You know, those dollars,
that was a
all
tough one.
they all add up.
Yeah.
Okay, so legal. This seems to be pretty consistent, Liz. Are you're okay? But pretty much a placeholder and see how the year goes. Obviously, you don't know what is going to hit, you know?
Yeah, it's the unknown that's a little scary. That's why I try to, like, for instance, line 166, that's truly an unknown. And Yeah, I guess I do keep it kind of consistently for the selectmen.
Any pending cases that you think are likely to head to litigation?
Oh, yes.
You don't want to think a little bit about that answer?
We have one that we're involved in right now. It's an abatement. An abatement appeal that is has been filed with the Superior Court. And in fact, Bob is involved in that on the town side of it.
Is that concerning a property value?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
large value?
yes,
Could have some more.
yes. In fact,
Yeah.
we've had 3 more that were just filed with the BTLA, same type of abatements.
Mhm.
And so if we have to hire specialty attorneys for that, or special people to testify or whatever, we would use this budget for that.
Mhm. If the town on these types of things prevails, okay, whatever the case, okay, is there a request that accompanies that judgment for legal costs and fees?
Yes, our regular attorney always does that. However, it depends on the type of case and how it was started as to whether it will be awarded to us or not.
My only thought was if we are, if that would be our normal protocol, every case is like that, except for the ones that can't be.
That don't qualify for that.
Right.
Right, yes. The answer
Okay.
is yes.
Great. So,
Always try that.
yep. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, so I think it's, if I remember correctly, a section 42, but whatever. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Motion to approve?
Seconded.
Okay. Any objections? It's a unanimous vote in the amount of $137,894. Okay. Next is patriotic purposes. I almost said porpoises. But so last year we didn't do fireworks.
In 2020, we did not, and we had put down a $6,000, between $6,000 and $6,500, a deposit on the 4th of July fireworks. And the company that we use, which is Atlas Fireworks over in Ringe, New Hampshire, they were
4th of July this year or 4th of July last year?
2020.
Yep.
So they were gracious enough, so that all fireworks were canceled in 2020. And then there was some concern in 2021 about fireworks as well, because the state of emergency was still going on and it ended in June. But anyways, Atlas was gracious enough to hold that deposit rather than we losing
Forfeit
it
it,
or, yes. And so that was applied to fireworks this year. So we had the 4th of July fireworks were not held this year, because there was still a major concern of the gathering of people that it would create in the bay. And we were freshly out of the state of emergency, but the decision had to be made prior to that. So it was made in June sometime. However, the Old Home Week fireworks were held in August. So that deposit was used towards the Old Home Week, in addition to the Old Home Week amount fireworks, which if you look in the justification sheets, you'll see the breakdown. So, and it was a very good display in the bay for the Old Home Week committee. So,
Yeah, we actually heard a lot about it.
yeah. So at the end of this year, there will be some money left over from some of the 4th of July stuff. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So then if, so is 23,000 the right number, or should be something less than that if we know we're carrying some funds over?
No, that is an accurate amount. If you look at the justification sheet. So in a regular year that we're not in a state of emergency, these are the dollar amounts. And we always ask the company for how much it would be for the next year so we can prepare for this in advance. And as you can see, the percentages there that they have advised. So for next year, these are the true dollar amounts of the actual cost of the fireworks.
Great. So, any other questions? Motion to approve?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, in the amount of, sorry, 24,729. Thanks, Liz, as always. Streetlights. For some of our newer members, Liz, can you just give a little once over what this is all about?
Sure. So first of all, we have 3 electric companies that service this town. It would be, starting in the south, it would be Eversource. And then in the north, it's Wolfboro Electric. And then the majority of the town is the co-op. So this particular budget covers streetlights that we for.
The electric bill.
So we have 170 streetlights in the town. And by the way, the selectmen have mentioned prior to the state of emergency, they have mentioned creating a small group to go out and research those lights as to the need for all of the lights. And then they've been delayed for 1.5 years because of the state of emergency and everything. So that's still on their radar. In fact, they talked about it a few meetings back. They'll get
We've
to it.
also talked about changing over the LED to LEDs, so forth, you know. Worked with one electrical contractor, brought it to our attention. It'd be something we should be looking at.
Absolutely.
There may be some energy credits for that as well,
Definitely.
you know? Where is South Alton? Is it Eversource is to the
Like New
south?
Durham.
So when I say South Alton, I mean in the southern part of the town on 28. We only have 3 streetlights with Eversource, and they are right on 28, right at the town line. There's one on the corner at the town line. There's another one just to the north on the front lawn of a residence. And then further north, right before Dudley Road and 28, there's a street light right there. Those are the only street lights that we have with Eversource.
And have we done a rate comparison between the 3 companies? Are they essentially the same, or do we, the rates drastically different, per kilowatt hour, or however, I don't know, however they measure these?
I have not compared them, but if I had to guess, there is a certain order that I would place them at as far as the highest, the lowest, and the
Co-op being highest, then Eversource, then Wolfboro?
No, Eversource being the highest, Wolfboro Electric probably being the lowest, and then the co-op right in the middle.
So then probably even more, granted, you're only talking 3 streetlights, but probably more so put an emphasis on those 3 on Route 28. The what's involved in the survey to determine the need? Any idea how that works?
Survey to determine, there's some criteria that was created, years before I started here, such as it had to be at an intersection, or an area that had sidewalks. And then I don't remember the full criteria, but I think it was municipal properties. Now, keep in mind, all of the streetlights that you see on the state routes, those are not necessarily paid for by the town. Those could be DOT lights that the state pays for.
So then when you say the criteria, let's say whatever that criteria is, okay, we fall into that category. Does that mean you then must have a street light there? Or does that mean you're eligible to have a street light there?
Eligible.
So then even if we meet all the criteria, in theory, you could get rid of the ones on 28.
If they're ours,
Okay,
the three, you're talking about the three at the,
Eversource.
yeah, we could. The only thing is with those three, those particular three, at the one that's near Dudley Road, that is a bad intersection. That is a dangerous intersection, day and night.
Yep.
So I don't think that one will be going away. The one right at the town line, there's a little area there that is actually our area where people can put boats in and stuff. There's been some talk about possibly removing that because the Chevron signs are on that corner. It's on a corner. But I'm not so sure if the board is going to do that or not. However, the one that's on the person's front lawn, they have been talking about that recently, about removing them. It's on a straight stretch. It's actually on the front lawn of, what was it, Bob? Somebody that used to work for the electric company or something? Yeah. So.
Okay. So, because what I was getting at is my thought would be that if social distancing is the issue with the COVID, okay, I don't understand why we couldn't still do the survey.
Well,
Somebody's sitting in a car.
we can, but you know, in the summer months, it doesn't get dark until later. And it's the selectmen that will be doing this. So, you know, they have jobs and committees that they are in meetings here. And
Yeah,
so
but you're talking year.
well,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
May I jump in?
Yeah.
My question would be, do we know if one is to be decommissioned, is there a requirement to physically remove it or just disconnect? I mean, it sounds like you'd be paying money.
Right.
Even if you have to shut it off, you'd be paying money versus looking for LED conversions. Either way, you're paying something.
So I dealt with this a few years back with Eversource, and yes, it is expensive to shut off a light with Eversource and remove the hardware. We would have to pay a private vendor who specializes in that to remove that one particular street light that's on the front lawn. Now, the co-op, on the other hand, they own all of the equipment. They take care of it. They replace it. They do everything. So every electric company is a little bit different. That co-op one, I had a quote of, I don't know, $700 or some odd dollars to remove it. We were told that all we have to do is have the vendor place it on the ground by the pole, and at some point, Eversource would pick up that old hardware and take it away because they still own it. It's just they don't maintain it and they don't do anything with it.
So I would ask, the 700, is that just their fee to take it, or does that include the paying someone to remove it?
So that was just a ballpark
Okay,
fee
yeah.
for the vendor who was out on the seacoast, an electrician,
Yep.
a private electrician, to come to Alton to remove it and place it on the ground.
As part of this survey talking about the usefulness of streetlights, is it my understanding that the individual electric companies can be relied upon to, if we were to assess LED lighting, to know what would go in there? Or does that have to be looked at and figured out?
No, they would.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I was just going to do some quick math here. So this is for, we have 170 streetlights?
Oh, wait.
We do.
Get them all down to bay.
Yeah.
Development.
It adds up.
My guess would have been 15.
I know.
You can hide a lot of things in this town.
You know, it's like catch basins, over 300.
Yeah.
So it's $194 a year, electric per light. Yeah, ballpark. Huh? So
Do you mind if I jump in one more time there? Do we know if the lights are all incandescent or fluorescent or?
They are a mixture.
Okay,
A little bit of everything.
gotcha.
No LEDs yet.
and then one last question. I know this is streetlights. But the streetlights are connected in theory, all to charge. How does anybody know who's electric? We're one wire, right? Or
Well, they have to follow the FCC or PUC or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings.
okay, no, I was just curious because it's like, how would anybody
It
know?
must run to a meter somewhere.
Yeah,
They've got to
they
be
must.
metered off.
Oh, so it's common electric, but then you pay based on what you, okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so, all right, sorry, not to bludgeon a comatose equine. But any other questions?
It sounds like work to be done going forward, but
Yeah, I'd just like to see, get it on the list, you know?
absolutely.
It's on the radar. It's on
Yeah.
the town's radar. It's just a difficult task.
Okay, so motion to approve,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Okay.
And no objections? And welfare department, CD. Would that be you?
Yes, yes.
Again, I probably should have done this for the other departments, but can you just give a little bit of a once over on the department, how it works, what you do?
Sure. So this particular budget is for a couple of purposes. One would be welfare assistance to those who qualify, and another is to pay for the Heike Fund caregivers that work with the Heike Fund clients. Those folks are not welfare clients, so this is kind of a combo budget. So we do have 2 employees in the upstairs office here who work with welfare clients. There are some pretty strict regulations and qualifications that a potential welfare client needs to follow. We use the guidance, the template from the state of New Hampshire for welfare guidelines. So the 2 that actually do the work, that would be line 015. They go to annual training in Concord with the state of New Hampshire. That would be line 110. And as well as 111, there's a welfare association that we are a member of. In order for them to go to these places, line 112 is used. And then the actual money that is used to assist the folks that need it is line 801. You'll notice in column 6, the selectmen did make a cut this year on that. You have to be really careful about cuts because you never know how many clients you're going to get in a year. Changes every year, and you are required by state, we are required by state statute to provide assistance to those that qualify. And then line 802 would be the Heike Fund. This is kind of a wash. So we have a trust fund in town. It's the Heike Fund Trust Fund. And Mr. Heike left a significant amount of money in a trust that is held by the trustees of the trust funds to assist elderly residents who want to remain in their homes. When I say assist, I mean help them by hiring a caregiver to go to their home to help them, whether it's do the dishes or take them out shopping or play cards with them or, whatever they need. As well as a little bit of assistance such as prescriptions or something like that. So anything.
Meaning picking up prescriptions?
Yeah, paying for them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that line 802 is for Heike Fund expenses, but we are required per our auditors to pay for everything out of the general fund. And then at the end of the year, the Heike Fund Trust Fund reimburses the general fund for any expenses out of that line. Additionally, you'll see line 831 and 832. Those are the taxes that are taken out of the paychecks for the Heike Fund caregivers.
Interesting that the numbers are so low
Yeah.
that have been used so far, especially with COVID. Is that something that's well known in Alton? This fund that people can,
It's pretty well known. There's some criteria that the clients, they need to fill out a form and everything. We just don't have a lot that. I mean,
What's
this-
generally
has been
the
around for-
qualifications? I mean, ballpark, roughly.
I don't know off the top of my head. I just know that there's a sort of an application form and that sort of thing. I mean, I've never heard of anyone being denied for that. It's been around for decades and decades. So
Can I get a copy of the application and, is the qualification process on the application or is that a separate document?
I don't know. I don't recall off the top of my head. It's been a few years.
If it's separate, I'd be interested in both. Thank you. So then if you're taking wages, taxes out, then these caregivers are like 1099 employees?
No, they are considered an employee of the trust under the umbrella of the town.
Got it. Okay.
And we screen them significantly.
So then if a caregiver is injured while administering care, it would come under the town's workers' comp? They're bringing groceries in or something like that for the client. They slip and fall.
I'm not sure because they're not actually town of Alton employees, but they are sort of under the umbrella paid for by the trust. Find out from the two ladies that do this. The two ladies
Yeah,
here.
because if it's not, okay, and somebody slips and falls, I could see that as a sticky situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be that workers' comp would be notified whether workers' comp approves it or not,
Yeah, but if workers' comp doesn't approve it, then you're faced with an employee, or pseudo employee, whatever their status is. Either suing the town or suing the client.
be curious if the fund or the trustees have some sort of policy that's in there that would cover that.
Check with the trustees, the trust funds on that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So just, just a thought on that, but,
You can check into that.
and then now I don't remember. Laura, did I send you the purchase order?
Yes.
Okay. So I got that in a PDF and in a Word document. Okay. Okay, well, let's finish that. So any questions on the welfare?
I do have one, just generally, Bob, do you remember how that number was reached, the reduced general assistance number?
General assistance, well, that's a number it's another thing. It's like our attorneys. We have no idea what we'll be getting for clients this year, who's going to come in. But you also have to remember that general assistance, we help people out. A lot of times it's technically a loan. And
It's a gift.
no, it is not a gift.
How many loans have been repaid?
Well, I can't answer that.
Zero.
For the town of Alton. Past experiences. It all depends what applicant asks for.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's assistance with a house payment or,
Mhm.
out of work, family, so forth. Then we can attach their property if we so wish.
If they have property.
Yep, that's what I said.
And which we have in the past. We put a lien on it.
Okay. Has it been satisfied?
Not until the house is sold.
Once attachment's an attachment.
Yep. And then it depends on the, well, I'm not going to,
Okay,
it's a process I know all too well. So,
thank you.
Jake, were you asking about the 5,000, I mean, the 7,714, like how they came up with that? Or not? The cut
The, let's see. Where is it?
from the bottom line?
See, there was,
Yeah.
that general assistance was cut.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, the difference between the 26 and the 18,286.
and not that it's a lot of money, but just out of, process. In order to administer welfare benefits, you have to be a member of a welfare association.
No, no, that's optional, but it's recommended by the state. But then the state of New Hampshire has training for welfare.
Process, yeah.
Employees,
Okay.
yeah.
And so in order to get that training, you have to be the member?
You don't, you need to have the training in order to know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And in order to get the template from the state and so on and so forth, the guidelines, because the guidelines that we have are from the state of New Hampshire. And that's what most of the municipalities in the state use.
So you have to be a member. I guess my question is, why be a member if you can get all these things for free?
So the association assists the employees with any kind of question that they have, even when they're not at a training session. So there is someone.
And you wouldn't have access to that unless you were a member.
Right, and it's only once a
it.
year, once or twice a year for that, whereas the association meets quarterly, I think. And the person who's in charge of the association is available all year. And actually, he has been contacted several times. So on unique situations, because there's always something that pops up on the radar that is not black and white, so to say.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions?
Nope.
Motion to approve?
Seconded.
Any objections? Unanimous vote in the amount of $50,000.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Old business? I have some old business. The last time we were here, we talked about purchase order. Some papers were exchanged back and forth. I got a copy of the town purchase order. Generally characterizing it, it really looked like a sales slip. You write down whatever it is, dollar amount, and you have a total. What I was offering is perhaps a different process. Is a purchase order that on the back of the purchase order has terms and conditions. Payment methods, okay, late fees if the vendor doesn't pay, okay. A requirement that the vendor hold the town harmless, which once the purchase order is made or signed, the town would then be granted protections that now would appear to only be available through the judicial process. So I guess that's on your desk to take to somebody to see if that's what they want to do. So to me, that kind of makes sense. But so we'll see. The other thing I had for old business was, and I know we talked about it. I know we voted on it, but I am absolutely baffled, okay, at the lack of a support for investigating a use and occupancy survey for the Mount Major Community Center and the fire station. It would seem to me that as a budget committee, these are the things that we would absolutely be doing. Okay? Both buildings are vacant. They are not used. We maintain them. And to have them, be a non-performing asset on the town's books for year after year after year, and us to not even ask the question. Again, the decision is another issue, okay? And the decision is the decision. But for us, I think, as a committee, it is absolutely within our responsibility to be inquiring as to what is the use of those buildings. And if there is no use, then we shouldn't be paying for them. Okay. Or if there could be a use, i.e. put in parking, whatever those things are, okay, which might in turn result in selling the buildings to a private person, get them off the books, get revenue in, and be done with it. Okay. So if I recall correctly, 3 years ago, maybe 4, Liz, you may have a better understanding with it. There was a storm, tree came down, landed on the roof of the the Mount Major Community Center, poked a hole in the roof. Okay. And we spent $40,000 on a new roof.
No, it was 16, 8, that.
I can't recall, whatever.
10.
We fixed the roof.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, so
It is a town-owned building.
understood. Okay. But it's a town-owned building, that the repairs came out of the budget for a building that's not used. Okay. And I still, that leaves me absolutely baffled. Okay. And if we're stuck with it, that's one thing. Okay. But for us to not even inquire, okay, if there is a better way of dealing with that, to me, flies in the face of what we're supposed to do. Okay. But we already voted on it. Okay. But I just brought that up as old business.
Dave, before you move on, can I just make a couple comments?
Oh, God. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, 2 things. First is when I spoke to the selectmen about the questions, which I have right here, before actually reading them, they didn't deny anything. They just asked for the request to be in writing.
Oh, yeah. No. I was talking about just our committee.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
That was.
the second thing, I just want to make a comment in regards to the West Alton Fire Station. That is not vacant and not in a non-use status. That is used. That is used to respond to emergencies.
So we have a fire engine in there?
Yes, we have
All right,
things in
great.
there and the building is used.
All right, terrific. All right, so then one building of the 2.
Yeah.
Yep, great. So,
And the board has discussed it. And as of now, the board's decided to keep it.
which? We talking about the fire station or we talk?
No, the fire station's the fire station.
Yep, so we're talking about the Mount Major Community Center.
Yeah, the community center.
Yep. And I'm not suggesting that we get rid of it. All I'm suggesting is to see if there's a better way to use it.
We've also checked into that and made it available, possibly if somebody could use it. At the present time, last I knew, nobody was really interested.
It needs a lot of work inside
Yeah, it's,
Okay,
for use in order for it to be used. But it is a historical building in the town, and there are those residents who want it to remain with the town and at some point rehab it and stuff. And then there are those that don't want, it's.
but now this is a building that you can't get to because there's no parking, if I remember correctly.
So there is a parking area behind it and there's a septic system there, but it was constructed, actually Jonathan Downing was the engineer who did that so that cars could park on it. So it's just grass. It's just a flat grassy area.
chamber.
And then there's a path that goes from behind that building to the fire station where there's additional parking. In between, there's a property that is owned privately, which is why those big beams were placed right in the middle of the fire station parking lot. Happy with the town, so
Nope, understand there's,
things.
undercurrents. But again, if you're looking at a building that we just put a new roof on, needs a lot more work. We don't know what we're going to do with it. You don't have access to it because nobody really knows how to get there. It's not really open, And again, I asked myself, You know, and as I think as a committee, we should be asking the question up the ladder. You know, somebody ought to be doing something with it somewhere. Okay, otherwise, it just becomes, you know, repair after repair after repair after repair after repair because there's no end in sight.
So this is really something that falls under the responsibility of the selectmen, and they are aware of that.
Okay.
And, you know,
That's
they do
What our
talk about
decision's
it.
been.
They talk about it regularly, actually.
Well, and repair after repair and talk about it and repair and talk about it and repair, perhaps with, you know, a department or a committee, you know, facilitating what can be done with it. And the answer might be nothing. You know, I acknowledge that. All I'm suggesting is to be making the decision to not do anything because you don't know what to do with it is not necessarily the best approach. Maybe the only one, but you don't know that until you know it. So that was all I'm suggesting. So the approval of the minutes for September 16th. I didn't have any questions. I got these early, so. Motion to approve. Again, if that's, I don't want to rush anybody.
Wait, when you say the 16th, maybe we didn't. We approved the 16th on the 23rd.
That's what I would have thought, but I see it on the agenda. I had no objections to the 16th and the, at the point of perhaps being redundant.
That's fine. Yeah. Well, I'll second that. I'll definitely approve it.
Okay, all right. Any objections? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, so those are approved. And then September 23rd. Just a quick question on the 23rd. How did you do with the conversion or the, you know, this converting the software to?
It took me a little longer because it is a piece of AI software and it will learn as it goes along. So on the first run, as Joshua had already informed me that his use with the Board of Selectmen was about 70% accurate.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's about what I found with this first run, but I also scribble tons of notes so I can run it against the recordings as well. And it will improve over time.
So Jake, when you say 70% accurate and ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it that's not accurate? You can't understand the word that it recorded, or what?
There are a couple words where if you say two words together and it may sound like another one, it will transcribe something that in an immediate first read might not be totally comprehensible, but when you look at it phonetically, it makes sense. And there's a couple cases where someone who was speaking was tagged and the end of their statement overran into the second tag paragraph attributed to a different speaker. And that's why I'm very disciplined about putting notes down. So I've got every single item discussed too. And I run those against the other notes. And I mean, we go over a lot of stuff, but I try, just as Pat was an absolute poet, I used his minutes to kind of go by and try and condense it a bit, but still get all the meat of the discussion in there.
Great. Well, thanks again for your effort in
Oh, no problem.
doing that. I know it's not fun. Anything else? Motion to approve?
Seconded.
All in favor? No objections, so. The only other thing I was going to just mention, actually it's more administrative. And Laura, if I have that purchase order either in a PDF or in a Word document. Okay? So if that's something that you want to pursue and a Word document's more user-friendly, okay, let me know and I could just send you that, you know, so no big deal. So that was it. Any new business? Motion to adjourn?
Favor?
I don't know. So, great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Do we leave these here? Dave, do we leave these here or do we take these?
We received